There was a channel on the internet that no one paid attention to at first. It never spoke. It never showed a face. It never asked for likes or comments. It only posted numbers, long sequences of digits, uploaded once a day, always in the same monochrome font against the same black background. No description, no context, no pattern, at least not one that anyone recognized. To most viewers, it looked like a broken channel, or maybe an abandoned experiment someone forgot to delete. But something about the consistency of the uploads caught the attention of a few curious people. Every day, without missing a single one, a new sequence appeared. Sometimes short, sometimes impossibly long, sometimes repeating digits, sometimes combinations that seemed almost deliberate. A handful of users began trying to decode them. They assumed the numbers might represent dates, times, coordinates, ciphers, or even the output of some random number generator. But each attempt failed. Nothing matched anything recognizable. The channel remained obscure for nearly 6 months. No voice, no identity, no explanation. Just numbers, quietly accumulating. 201944 882001 04892716 71.3932 402.1 1102 14. The channel called itself simply N.XI. Most people shrugged and moved on. But a small group of amateur cryptographers, puzzle enthusiasts, and digital investigators decided to take a closer look. They formed a private thread on a forum, calling themselves the Interpreter Circle. Their early theories were harmless. Some believed it was an art project. Others thought it was part of an alternate reality game. One user joked that it was just someone posting their Wi-Fi passwords. But then, one night, something unusual happened. A new sequence was uploaded. But unlike all the previous ones, this one had structure. It was aligned differently, indented, spaced with intention. And at the very end, a small, almost imperceptible symbol appeared. A downward arrow. Something the channel had never used before. One member of the Interpreter Circle noticed a strange detail. The spacing matched the rhythm of a well-known mathematical encoding method, one often used in classified communication systems. The numbers weren't random. They were grouped, clustered, weighted, and whoever was posting them knew exactly what they were doing. The circle spent the entire night dissecting the new sequence. They tried prime factoring, frequency analysis, modular arithmetic, even linguistic mapping. Nothing fit. But early in the morning, one user tried something different. He treated the numbers as timestamps. Not digital timestamps, file timestamps. More specifically, timestamps from CCTV footage. And suddenly, the sequence made sense. The numbers matched the exact formatting of a surveillance system used in certain industrial facilities, outdated, but still present in older security infrastructures. The first chunk of digits represented the date, the second represented the camera ID, the third represented the timestamp down to the millisecond, the fourth represented the frame index. But there was something troubling. The final cluster of digits referred to a location, a physical place, one that didn't seem to exist in any public database. The Interpreter Circle cross-referenced the format with known CCTV systems. The numbers pointed to a facility that had been decommissioned years earlier after a structural collapse, a place that, according to official reports, had no surviving video archives. Yet, the numbers channel had posted a timestamp from a camera that was supposed to no longer exist. And the downward arrow at the end of the sequence, it wasn't a symbol, it was an instruction. It meant, go deeper. Once the Interpreter Circle realized the numbers pointed to a defunct surveillance system, the tone of their investigation shifted. What started as casual curiosity became something heavier, a sense that they were opening a door someone had deliberately sealed. The next upload came 24 hours later, exactly on schedule. But this time, the digits were shorter, almost incomplete, as if someone had cut part of the sequence before pressing upload. Several members noticed immediately that the new numbers didn't resemble timestamps. They resembled coordinates. But the format wasn't exact. The values were too specific, too granular. Only after plotting them on a high-resolution map did the meaning become clear. The coordinates pointed not to a location, but to a line, a straight descending line beneath the surface of the Earth, as if referencing depth. One user overlaid the numbers onto subterranean mapping software, and a chill ran through the group. The depth matched the old foundation levels of the collapsed facility, levels rumored to have been sealed due to toxic exposure and unstable ground. Someone inside the circle made a discovery that silenced everyone. When the timestamp from the first message and the depth coordinate from the second message were combined, they formed the precise index for a missing segment of CCTV footage, a segment that had been referenced once in an accident report, but never made available to the public. In the report, the footage was described simply as unrecoverable. Yet the numbers channel seemed to be reconstructing it piece by piece. People began to wonder, who was uploading these numbers? A whistleblower? A former employee? An automated system still running long after the facility's shutdown? Or something else entirely? Something triggered by the collapse itself? As the days went on, the sequences became increasingly complex. They referenced camera feeds that didn't exist on any public blueprint. They referenced rooms never listed in the facility's documentation. And then the numbers began including intervals, gaps that suggested missing frames. The Circle realized the channel wasn't just posting raw data. It was trying to guide them toward a specific moment that had been erased. The fourth upload shattered any doubt. It contained only 8 digits. No spacing, no patterns. Just 8 digits that matched the internal ID of a worker who had disappeared during the collapse. A man whose body was never recovered. His name never came up directly, but the coding system was unmistakable. Someone, or something, was pointing at him. The Circle began splitting. Some members wanted to stop. They felt the channel was digging into something sensitive, possibly classified. Others argued that whatever N.XI was trying to show had been hidden for a reason, meaning it was important. A few became obsessed, refusing to sleep until they uncovered every layer of the cipher. Then came the 7th upload. It was unlike anything else. Not digits, not clusters, not coordinates. Just a long string of zeros and ones, binary. When decoded, the message revealed something none of them expected. A file name. A file name matching the structure of the missing CCTV fragment referenced in the old report. It wasn't a video. It wasn't an archive. It was a frame. One single frame. A still image. But the file name alone implied something alarming, because according to the timestamp, this single frame should have been from a camera positioned deep below the facility's structural limit. A place no one should have been able to reach. A place that, according to the blueprints, didn't exist. The interpreter Circle tried to locate the frame on public servers, internal leaks, even cached directories. Nothing. It was as if the image had never existed in any recoverable form. Yet N.XI was telling them that the frame was real, and more importantly, that someone had seen it. Days passed, and the interpreter Circle grew increasingly anxious. Every upload tightened the noose around a moment in time that none of them had ever witnessed, yet all of them felt approaching. The 8th sequence appeared abruptly. No pattern, no introduction, just a cascade of numbers that seemed chaotic at first glance.
But one of the more experienced analysts noticed something subtle. The digits weren't meant to be read horizontally. They were layered. When reorganized vertically, they formed a grid, the exact pixel dimensions of a standard definition video frame. That meant the numbers channel wasn't pointing to a frame anymore. It was trying to rebuild it. One user, a former graphics engineer, converted the grid into raw pixel data. The result wasn't a clear image, but something like a phantom.
A haze of shapes, a corridor maybe. A vertical distortion on the left, possibly the silhouette of a doorway. And in the far background, where the image dissolved into compression artifacts, something darker. A figure, perhaps. Or maybe just a glitch produced by incomplete information. But even as a ghost of an image, it carried a chilling weight, because the camera angle implied the footage had been taken deep underground, far beyond the facility's documented lower floor. The circle debated late into the night. Was this an authentic reconstruction of missing footage, or was someone manipulating them? But the next upload removed any ambiguity. It was a sound file, just 5 seconds long, composed again of digits, but this time arranged in a format that matched a PCM audio stream. When decoded, the file produced a faint, low-frequency hum, almost below the threshold of hearing. At first, it resembled machinery, the deep mechanical groan of generators or ventilation systems. But when the audio was slowed, the hum took on a new shape, something rhythmic, organic. And beneath it, almost imperceptible, was a sharp, metallic click, like something tapping on the camera's casing. One user immediately closed the file. Another said their speakers produced a distortion they had never heard before. A third claimed they had seen their screen flicker just as the click played. Within minutes, half the circle refused to listen again. But the next upload forced them to. It wasn't numbers. It wasn't audio. It wasn't binary or coordinates. It was a message. Frame 001 complete. The circle froze. The numbers channel had never used words, never acknowledged anything. It had just spoken for the first time, and it claimed the reconstruction was finished. The next sequence arrived 30 minutes later, and this one broke the group's composure. It contained a compressed representation of the image they had been piecing together, only this time, the grid was complete. The graphics engineer processed the data, and for the first time, the frame resolved into full clarity. The corridor was unmistakable. Concrete walls, rusted pipes, a maintenance walkway far below regulation depth. And standing at the end of the hallway was a man in a worker's uniform, facing the camera. But something was wrong. His posture, the angle of his head, the unnatural stillness. His features were slightly blurred, as if the camera had focused too late or too early. But his eyes reflected light that should not have been present in that space. Someone muttered that he resembled the worker whose ID had appeared earlier. But that was impossible. The man had been declared missing before the collapse. And yet here he was, captured in a frame from a camera that shouldn't have existed, in a corridor that officially was never built. The real terror came seconds later, when the processed frame was shared in the group's private chat. One user swore the figure moved. Another insisted the face looked sharper each time they opened the image. A third said the eyes were following the cursor. Of course, none of that could be true. Static images don't move. Pixels don't shift. Light doesn't change unless something is rewriting the data, something none of them wanted to consider. But the numbers channel had one more upload waiting. And it was the one that made the group finally divide for good. The final upload appeared without warning. No timer, no buildup, no pattern. It arrived in the middle of the day, something the numbers channel had never done before. A long string of digits filled the screen, far longer than any previous sequence. It stretched endlessly, without breaks or markers, like a stream of data pouring from a severed cable. For nearly an hour, the community watched in silence as the digits continued to unfold. No repetition, no rhythm, no obvious code. At least, not until one of the circle members recognized the structure. The sequence wasn't a cipher at all. It was metadata. Every block of numbers represented part of the file header for a security recording. But not just any recording. The formatting matched a live feed, something being transmitted in real time. The implication hit everyone at once. The numbers channel wasn't uploading fragments of an old video anymore. It was broadcasting something happening now. Someone attempted to parse the data as raw video. The feed stuttered, glitched, then finally rendered a blurry but unmistakable image. The same corridor from the reconstructed frame, except now the lights were flickering. Dust drifted across the lens. The environment looked unstable, as if the structure itself were breathing. And at the far end of the hall, the man was still there. But he wasn't standing still anymore. His head turned, a slow mechanical pivot, frame by frame. His eyes, The strange, reflective eyes that had terrified half the circle were now fixed directly on the camera. Someone shouted that the man was moving closer, but the footage was too degraded to confirm. The frames dissolved into noise, interlacing with fragments of the metadata stream. The feed struggled to hold shape, as if whatever it was transmitting resisted being recorded. Then the numbers changed again. A new cluster appeared near the bottom of the screen. Not a timestamp, not a depth marker, a message. Frame 002 inbound. The circle panicked. No one dared decode it. Some closed the chat entirely. Others deleted their accounts. One member insisted they should stop immediately. The first frame had been terrifying enough. Whatever the second frame contained wasn't meant to be seen. But one person didn't agree. A cryptographer who had been silent for hours finally wrote a single line. If the footage is live, he knows we're watching. Moments later, the numbers channel uploaded a second stream. Smaller, compressed, as if it had been forced through a narrow digital gap. Someone processed it automatically before anyone could warn them. The result was a single image, barely stable, glitching at the edges. The corridor was empty. The man was gone. The frame flickered once, twice, and then, for a fraction of a second, everyone who opened the file claimed to see the same thing, a face pressed close to the lens, distorted, blurred, but undeniably watching back. The feed collapsed into darkness. The numbers channel never uploaded again. The interpreter circle fell apart within days. Some members deleted everything connected to the investigation. Others insisted they heard clicking sounds coming from their devices late at night, the same metallic tap from the reconstructed audio. A few swore they saw movement in corrupted image previews on their computers, even after removing the files entirely. But no one could prove any of it. No one wanted to. Officially, the facility remained sealed. The missing worker remained missing. And the camera that captured the impossible footage remained, according to all records, non-existent. But the numbers channel had left behind one final clue. In the metadata of its last transmission, buried deep in a forgotten header, someone discovered a final line of plaintext, a warning, or a reminder, or maybe a direction. The next frame is yours. And for the first time, no one in the circle dared decode the numbers again. The numbers channel never returned. No more sequences, no more frames, only silence, and the unfinished question it left behind. But in the days that followed, a new anomaly surfaced. A pattern, not of numbers, but of behavior. A set of accounts across the internet that had all subscribed to N.XI and then vanished at the same time. Someone, or something, was watching the people watching the numbers. And among the traces left behind, one message repeated across multiple abandoned profiles. The pattern continues. There is one real-world case that mirrors the structure of the numbers channel, Cicada 3301. Beginning in 2012, a mysterious organization released a series of puzzles made of numbers, coordinates, cryptography, and hidden images, claiming they were searching for highly intelligent individuals. The puzzles led to abandoned locations, encrypted servers, and messages left only for specific solvers. To this day, no one knows who created Cicada 3301, why the puzzles existed, or what happened to the people who completed them. Search Cicada 3301 puzzle. Everything about it is real, and like the numbers channel, Cicada's last message ended the same way, with silence. Next time, we follow the pattern left behind after N.XI disappeared. Not a code, not a signal, but a trail of human behavior repeating across forgotten corners of the internet. And the anomaly at the center of it has been active for years. Tomorrow, we open the next file. Welcome to Archive 314.